Who was Jeroboam? The tragic story of the first king after Israel's division. There are people who start their journeys with great promise, but unfortunately, end in tragic ways. Imagine someone entrusted by God with a huge responsibility. A man chosen to lead God's people, someone to whom the Lord handed over a kingdom that previously belonged to the lineage of David. This man is Jeroboam, the first monarch of the northern kingdom of Israel. His story is a powerful warning of how the decisions we make can shape not only our destiny, but that of an entire nation. Jeroboam started as a young man full of potential, chosen by God for a grand mission. His journey could have been marked by blessings and divine glory. However, his choices led him down a path of disobedience and idolatry, resulting in devastating consequences. The scriptures show us that Jeroboam became an example of how we shouldn't act before God. His actions were so repugnant in the Lord's eyes that his lineage was severely judged. It's a story that serves as a warning to all of us about the dangers of rebellion against God. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, take this opportunity and subscribe now. Don't forget to activate all notifications and leave your like. Let's start the video. The exact meaning of the name Jeroboam is uncertain, although many scholars interpret it as the people increase. It's important to note that both Jeroboam I and Jeroboam II ruled the northern kingdom, but they were not descendants of the Davidic dynasty. Jeroboam didn't start his journey as a villain. He was a man of great talent, skilled and a natural leader. King Solomon himself recognized him, putting him in charge of the workers in Joseph's house. As described in the first book of Kings, chapter 11, verse 28. Jeroboam, an Ephraimite, carried the promise of greatness. God, through the prophet Ahijah, told Jeroboam, "If you listen to my voice and do everything I command you, and walk in my ways, and keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, I will be with you and will build you a firm house, as I built for David, and will give you Israel." God promised Jeroboam a prosperous kingdom and a strong dynasty, but this promise was conditional upon obedience. The story of Jeroboam becomes a case study of how the human heart, even in the face of God's promise, can be corrupted by ambition and the desire for power. The biblical text recounts that Jeroboam was the son of Nebat, an Ephraimite from Zerida. His mother was a widow named Zeruiah. Although Jeroboam came from humble beginnings, God chose him for an extraordinary purpose. Jeroboam was known for his strength, courage, and dedication to work. These qualities caught the attention of King Solomon, who placed him in a leadership position over the house of Joseph. This shows us how God can use our abilities and character to elevate us to positions of influence. One day, while leaving Jerusalem, Jeroboam had an encounter that would change his life. The prophet Ahijah approached him, and in a powerful symbolic gesture, tore his own new garment into 12 pieces. This act represented the 12 tribes of Israel. Ahijah then gave 10 pieces to Jeroboam, declaring that God was about to divide the kingdom, giving 10 tribes to Jeroboam. Why would God do this? The answer lies in Solomon's actions. Despite his legendary wisdom, Solomon turned away from God. He began to worship foreign deities like Ashtoreth, Chemosh, and Milcom. This infidelity led God to make a drastic decision: to divide the kingdom. However, God's mercy is evident even in his judgment. For the sake of David and Jerusalem, God allowed one tribe to remain with Solomon's lineage. This reminds us that God honors his promises, even when his people fail. God made a conditional promise to Jeroboam. If he walked in the ways of the Lord, as David did, God would establish a lasting dynasty for him. This offer demonstrates how God gives us opportunities to choose to follow him and receive his blessings. Unfortunately, When Solomon heard of the prophecy, he tried to kill Jeroboam. This led Jeroboam to flee to Egypt, where he remained until Solomon's death. We see here how fear and insecurity can lead us to act against God's plans. Solomon reigned for 40 years in Jerusalem. What can we learn from this story? God uses ordinary people for extraordinary purposes. Don't underestimate what God can do through you. Our choices have consequences. Solomon's decisions affected not only him but the entire kingdom. God is faithful to his promises, even when we are not. He kept his promise to David, despite Solomon's mistakes. God offers us opportunities for obedience and blessing. The conditional promise to Jeroboam shows that we have choices to make in our walk with God. Fear can lead us to act against God's plans. This story challenges us to examine our own lives. Are we walking faithfully with God? Are we trusting in His plans, even when we don't fully understand them? Remember, God is always working, even behind the scenes of our lives. He can use unexpected circumstances and unlikely people to fulfill His purposes. Another important point about the story of Jeroboam relates to the division of the kingdom of Israel and his rise to power. After the death of Solomon, his son Rehoboam took the throne. The people of the north, tired of the heavy taxes imposed by Solomon, asked Rehoboam for relief. Rehoboam, influenced by his young advisors, refused the people's request. Instead of easing taxes, he increased them. This decision led to a widespread revolt. 10 tribes of the north rebelled, proclaiming Jeroboam as their king. Jeroboam, who had fled to Egypt to escape Solomon's wrath, returned and became the leader of the northern kingdom. According to the biblical account, Rehoboam, son of Solomon, was about to become king. The people of Israel gathered in Shechem for his coronation, but there was tension in the air. Years of hard work under Solomon's reign had left the people exhausted and yearning for change. Jeroboam, who had fled to Egypt during Solomon's reign, returned to lead the people in their demands. They asked Rehoboam to ease the burden imposed by his father. Rehoboam asked for 3 days to consider the request, a wise decision at first glance. He first consulted his father's experienced advisors, who suggested a compassionate approach. If you will serve this people today and meet their demands, they will be your servants forever. What wise advice! They understood that true leadership is service. But Rehoboam made a crucial mistake. He rejected the advice of the elders and sought the opinion of his young friends. These, inexperienced and arrogant, advised a harsh response. You tell them that your little finger is thicker than your father's waist. If he disciplined them with whips, you will use scorpions. When the people returned, Rehoboam chose the harsh words of the young men. His response provoked an immediate rebellion. The 10 northern tribes separated, declaring, What share have we in David? To your tents, O Israel. Thus, the kingdom was divided. The northern tribes chose Jeroboam as king, while Rehoboam was left with only Judah and Benjamin. Scripture tells us that this was part of God's plan, fulfilling the prophecy given to Jeroboam by Ahijah. Rehoboam, realizing his mistake, tried to use force to reunite the kingdom. But God intervened, sending the prophet Shemaiah with a clear message: Do not fight against your brothers. Return home, for this is my doing. Obediently, they returned. Confirmed in the first book of Kings, chapter 12. Meanwhile, Jeroboam faced his own challenges. Fearing that he would lose power if the people continued to worship in Jerusalem, he made a disastrous decision. He created 2 golden calves, placing them in Bethel and Dan, and told the people, "Here are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." Jeroboam didn't stop there. He established his own priests and festivals, leading the people even further away from the true worship of God. His actions became sin, turning Israel away from the Lord. What lessons can we learn from this story? The importance of humility in leadership. Rehoboam failed to listen to wise counsel and serve his people. The consequences of rash decisions. One unwise choice by Rehoboam divided a nation. The danger of compromising our faith. Jeroboam, out of fear of losing power, led the people into idolatry. The sovereignty of God in history. Even through human mistakes, God's plan was fulfilled. The importance of seeking God in all decisions. Both Rehoboam and Jeroboam failed to do this, with disastrous consequences. This story challenges us to examine our own lives. Are we listening to wise counsel? Are we making decisions based on fear or faith? Are we compromising our integrity for short-term gains? Remember, friends, the choices we make today shape not only our future, but can affect generations. Let's seek God's wisdom, serve with humility, and remain faithful in our worship. Imagine the scene. Jeroboam, the king of Israel, is there in Bethel, burning incense on an altar. Suddenly, a man of God comes from Judah. He didn't come by chance. God sent him with a powerful message. This man of God does something incredible. He prophesies against the altar. He says that in the future, a descendant of David named Josiah will sacrifice the priests of the high places on that same altar. And to prove that his message is true, he gives a sign. The altar will break apart and the ashes will scatter. Jeroboam is furious. He tries to have the man of God arrested, but something surprising happens. His hand becomes paralyzed. And just as the man of God said, the altar breaks and the ashes scatter. Now, look how quickly things change. Jeroboam, who just wanted to arrest the man of God, now begs for his help. The man prays, and the king's hand is healed. Jeroboam, grateful, invites the man to his house, but he refuses. Why? Because God instructed him not to eat or drink in that place, and to return by a different road. But the story doesn't end there. An old prophet from Bethel hears about what happened and goes after the man of God. He finds the man resting under an oak tree and invites him to his house. The man of God refuses again, explaining God's orders. But the old prophet lies, saying that an angel told him to bring the man back. Unfortunately, the man of God falls for the old prophet's lie. He returns and eats in the prophet's house. But while they are at the table, God speaks through the old prophet, condemning the man of God for his disobedience. What happens next is tragic. The man of God leaves, but on the way he is attacked and killed by a lion. His body is lying on the road, with the lion and the donkey standing beside it, a surreal scene that clearly shows God's judgment. The old prophet, upon hearing this, goes to find the body. He buries the man of God in his own tomb and mourns for him. He even instructs his sons to bury him in the same tomb when he dies. And Jeroboam? Well, even after all this, he doesn't change his ways. He continues to make priests for the high places, leading all the people into sin. As mentioned in the first book of Kings, chapter 13. Friends, this story teaches us powerful lessons. The importance of obedience to God, even when we don't fully understand or when others tell us otherwise. The serious consequences of disobedience, even for those who are used by God. The danger of lying in God's name, as the old prophet did. The persistence of sin, as we see in Jeroboam, who even after witnessing God's power, continued in his evil ways. May we learn from these lessons and always seek to obey God, trusting in His word above all. Remember, our choices have consequences, not only for ourselves, but for everyone around us. The serious consequences in Jeroboam's life begin when his son Abijah falls seriously ill. Worried, Jeroboam asks his wife to disguise herself and go to consult the prophet Ahijah in Shiloh. He wants to know what will happen to his son. But look, God already knew everything. He tells Ahijah that Jeroboam's wife is coming disguised. When she enters, even though Ahijah is old and nearly blind, he recognizes her immediately. Ahijah then delivers a harsh message from God to Jeroboam. He reminds him how God raised him up and made him king, but Jeroboam chose to do evil, creating idols and turning away from God. The consequences would be terrible. The whole house of Jeroboam would be destroyed. The saddest part is that the sick son, Abijah, would die as soon as his mother returned home. But there is a small light in this darkness. This boy would be the only one in the family to have a proper burial, because in him something good was found with God. The prophecy is fulfilled. When Jeroboam's wife returns home, the boy dies. All Israel mourns for him, exactly as Ahijah had said. But the story doesn't end there. We see that Jeroboam reigned for 22 years, but his legacy was one of disobedience and idolatry. Meanwhile, in Judah, Rehoboam, son of Solomon, did not follow God's ways either. He allowed the construction of pagan altars and other abominable practices. As a result of this infidelity, God allows Egypt to attack Jerusalem. King Shishak takes the treasures of the temple and palace, including Solomon's famous golden shields. Confirmed in the first book of Kings, chapter 14. Friends, what can we learn from this situation? God sees beyond appearances. There is no use disguising ourselves or pretending. He knows our hearts. Our choices have consequences, not only for ourselves, but for those around us and even for future generations. Even amidst judgment, God still shows mercy. We see this in the treatment given to young Abijah. Unfaithfulness to God leads to ruin. Both Jeroboam and Rehoboam experienced the consequences of turning away from God. God fulfills His word. Everything prophesied by Ahijah came to pass. May we learn from the mistakes of these kings and choose to follow God with all our hearts. Remember, our faithfulness to God not only blesses us, but can bless many around us. So, what do you think? How can we apply these lessons in our lives today? Leave your comments and let's talk more about it. Another crucial point in Jeroboam's story is related to the conflicts he faced against the kingdom of Judah. After the death of his father, Rehoboam, Abijah took the throne of Judah. Unfortunately, he followed in his father's wrong footsteps, turning away from God. Soon, tensions and hostilities arose between Israel and Judah. According to the account in the second book of Chronicles, chapter 13, Abijah confronted Jeroboam in a great battle. Just imagine, Abijah takes the throne of Judah in a time of great tension. The kingdom is divided, and there is an imminent war with Israel. Abijah, with an army of 400,000 men, faces Jeroboam, who has twice the number of soldiers. It seems like an impossible situation, doesn't it? But here is the twist. Abijah does something surprising. He ascends Mount Zemaraim and delivers a powerful speech. He reminds everyone of God's covenant with David, criticizes Jeroboam's rebellion, and highlights how Judah remained faithful to the true God. Abijah emphasizes the importance of proper worship of God, with legitimate priests and correct practices. He contrasts this with the idols and false priests of Israel. It's a powerful indication that our spiritual practices matter. The climax of the story is exciting. Surrounded by Jeroboam's army, Abijah and his men cry out to God. And guess what happens? God answers. The army of Judah wins, even though they are outnumbered. This shows us that with God, the impossible becomes possible. After Abijah, his son Asa takes the throne. And here, the story takes a turn. Asa decides to do what is right in the eyes of God. He removes the idols, including a horrible idol that his own mother had made. Imagine the courage it took to do that. Asa faces challenges, like the war against Baasha, king of Israel. In a strategic move, he makes a deal with the king of Syria to weaken Israel. It's interesting to see how politics and faith intertwine in these stories, isn't it? Meanwhile, things are not going well in the kingdom of Israel. Nadab, Jeroboam's son, follows in his father's wicked ways. His story is short and sad. He is assassinated by Baasha, who takes the throne and exterminates the entire family of Jeroboam, fulfilling the prophecy we saw earlier. We can learn that our choices matter. Asa chose to follow God, and it brought blessings to Judah. Sometimes, doing what is right requires courage. Asa had to oppose even his own mother to remove idolatry. God is faithful to his promises. The prophecy about Jeroboam's house was fulfilled exactly as it was said. Sin has lasting consequences. Jeroboam's sins affected not only him but his entire family and nation. God can use even complicated political situations to fulfill his purposes. Guys, these stories may seem distant, but they have a lot to teach us today. How can we be lamps in our world? How can we have the courage of Asa to do what is right, even when it's hard? Leave a comment with what caught your attention in this story. Let's reflect together on how we can apply these lessons to our lives. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Also, I suggest you watch the video about the story of King Solomon, David's son. Until next time, and may God bless each one of you.